Hello everyone and welcome back to GamerGuild TV as we wind down and round out a fantastic day of celebrations celebrating 5 years of content right here on youtube.com/GamerGuild TV. And we thought, what better way to round out the day than by answering some of your questions wrote in by our community via our Discord server. The wonderful, vibrant place where lots of mature gamers get together to discuss video games all day, every day of the week. Not only do we round it all up on our podcast, but we also talk pretty much every single day, Rich. I think I jump in, check what's going on. In fact, we get a lot of our news stories from our audience out there. They're the budding journalists that we need to make the podcast show notes every single week come together for your viewing or listening pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuild TV. And of course, Richie, we've been streaming for almost 12 hours now throughout the course of the day. We did the podcast live first thing this afternoon. We then did some Gears of War multiplayer stream. We then did a video game console ranking, which is incredibly fun. So much so we went over double the time and a little bit more so as well. We've just done some multiplayer with our audience. We played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And of course, we're here now just to answer some questions. So I have all the questions, Richie. They're all listed here in front of me. We'll probably just chat in general in between. Anyone who's joined us in the live chat, thank you for stopping by for this particular stream. If you do have any questions, get them in there. Like, this is the time. We've got no strict agenda for this show other than answer your questions, sit back, talk about things. I might even do the thumbnail for this week's show while we're here, just to chill out, work together, have some input. Richie, question number one from our audience, and this is from Simon.
Answer number one
is the fabled alpaca. Writes in and says, when you started Sounds of Stadia 5 years ago, did you have any hopes / aspirations / dreams for the podcast? And did you see yourselves doing it 5 years later? So half a decade has passed, Richie. Did we have any hopes and aspirations for this channel, or was it... What do you think?
I think the answer is kind of yes and no. I think we kind of did hope it would grow, continue growing, and would grow alongside Stadia and become a lot more successful than it was. Mm-hmm. But I don't think either of us were quite naive to assume that. No. We never had that entitlement. It's like, this is something we're doing as a hobby. It would be nice to grow it.
Yeah.
But we're going to make the content that we want to make, and we're going to put in the hours that we have to put in. We're not going to grind ourselves in there trying to make something happen.
Yeah.
And we're not going to pursue the algorithm. We've just always done what we want to do.
Yeah, I think that was a big part of it, wasn't it? Like, when we set out, for those who probably don't know, actually, if you joined us late, or we've never really actively spoke about it because we are so strict with trying to keep to our show layout and how much time we have to dedicate to our own talk rather than the news and video games. But yeah, I initially thought of the idea that I wanted to do something along the lines after listening to video game upon video game podcasts and seeing people branch out and do their own thing and start their own thing. And obviously the platform that is YouTube and Twitter with social media allows people to reach audiences far greater than just their local demographics. And yeah, I think I was out for drinks. Actually, we mentioned it in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was in Chester with my wife, and we'd gone out for, I think it was our anniversary maybe, and we were just out having drinks, and we were in a tiki bar of all places. And I remember like looking at the tiki cups with the tiki cocktails that I had, and I just ran the idea by her that it was something I was interested in, but I didn't want to do it alone. And who would I think of our kind of friend group who was like inclined into video games as much as I was, and who I would kind of trust to go on a hobby with this? Because I think early on, I don't know about you in particular, but I kind of had those like nerves of like embarrassment almost. Of like, I don't want to do something so public, because we are British, we are quite reserved in what we do, and
it's even still a bit awkward, like telling family and friends and colleagues that you're doing this thing.
Yeah, we're not part of the generation.
You're talking about it. It's like,
yeah, it's like, but we're not part of that generation where content creation, being on camera, it like expressing your hobby in the ways that we do comes natural. I think like we've gone so much of our lives, most of our lives, like watching television content, which is scripted, paid actors, like doing, like making content, and for that to go so accessible via cameras and PCs and stuff and streaming. Like, just look at the rise of like Twitch and YouTube to see how much the landscape's changed. And I think the reality is we're on the more mature side where it doesn't come natural to us at all.
Podcasts, I think they're one of them weird things where I think there's a lot of people got podcasts where you just talk about stuff. It's like, yeah, it's like, oh, why do you do that? Then, but you spend 8 hours a day listening to radio.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, they'll play songs, but they might play one song every 10 minutes. Maybe 2 every 10 minutes, and the rest of the time you're listening to dickheads talk about nonsense.
I listened to...
What's the difference?
part of the radio show the other day. It was Absolute Radio, and they were doing a Snape off, and it was see who could do the best Alan Rickman impression. It was the Great British Snape Off, is what they called it, because Bake Off's just started. And the host, I did like
appreciate
it.
The fun.
And the host's 8-year-old daughter judged which of the hosts could do the best Snape impression. And they literally said, like I said, between rock songs, they spent 5-6 minutes basically going, Potter, I come here, Potter, like doing stuff like that. And that's content for millions of listeners.
If we were doing that show on like broadcast radio, everyone would be like, oh my God, that's amazing. But when it comes to doing a podcast on YouTube, it's like, why are you doing that sometimes?
Yeah. What's the deal with that?
It's actually rare that I've encountered that, but sometimes you see it in people's face. Mm-hmm. Like when you tell them, it's like it's hard to explain. It's like, oh yeah, I like video games, so I dedicate a decent chunk of my week to talk about them to strangers on the internet.
Yeah, it's an interesting hobby, but yeah. So sat in a tiki bar, and if I recall, Google Stadia was the catalyst for it all because it was announced I think at GDC or something, maybe the developers conference, and then they explained what it was, and pre-orders were going to go live. And after kind of coming up with the idea, I think I designed some like rough logos, tried to come up with some name ideas on my shitty laptop at the time. What do I want it to be? And then I reached out to both you and Tom specifically for like your enthusiasm for video games and our hobbies, and obviously friendship on top of that. Made it really easy to reach out to you.
I think that's something our audience should know as well, that if we didn't sit down every week to have a podcast, to record a podcast about the video game news, probably not every week, but occasionally we will probably meet up. And there's been many times at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, we've been sat on your kitchen floor, shit-faced, basically doing a podcast.
In essence, yeah. Well, like when we and our friends
we have these conversations naturally.
Get proper like realistically between our friend group, we could probably do a football podcast, we could do a gaming podcast, we could do a movie and television podcast, because our friend group is so ingrained in pop culture, and they're a great group of lads, and it is kind of picking out the people who would do it. And I think Tom's like technical prowess, early doors especially. And then I think
we learned so much from Tom. Like,
we
wouldn't
did.
be here, right? We wouldn't be sat right here right now if it wasn't for Tom.
No, absolutely not. I wouldn't have a clue what I was doing with half the stuff if it wasn't for that. But yeah, I think it really, really stemmed it off. And I think when it started, and it was just a case of me kind of like reaching out to you guys, and both of you said, it sounds like a great idea. And Tom had done, unbeknownst to us, some streaming beforehand on Twitch. Via his own personal thing, so we didn't even know that. So it was almost like a happy coincidence of, would you be interested in this? And it was almost like, I've already done that, but to do it with friends on specific subject matter, it really was a great starting point. And
the focus of the channel initially wasn't gameplay. Gameplay came probably at least 6 months into the channel. Really, it was the Sounds of Stadia podcast. That was the conception of the entire channel. So we did have the idea for a podcast right from the start.
Yeah.
And with Stadia, we thought we had that niche to go with. And actually, I think we did.
Yeah. And I think
it worked quite well.
In hindsight, I still think it was the best move, because I think my initial messages to you were, how often do you get the opportunity to start on the ground floor with a platform? It's a big reason why I'm a New York City FC fan, is in football, in the sport, it's very rare you get to be a fan of a club from day one, from inception, before they've even kicked the first football. I've been in New York, I've been at the Yankee Stadium, and it was almost a kind of just a state of, hell yeah, like, I'm down for that. Like, they have money, they have a great venue, I love the city, like, why not? And I intend to very much go to a match one day. So the same thing with Google Stadia of like, it's a brand new concept, it's cloud gaming, it will have AAA, it's backed by the massive powerhouse that is Google, it has the money. And it's almost like there's not really many companies on this planet who could do that in 2019.
Yeah. It did fail with Stadia. There was a potentially paradigm shifting opportunity there for Google.
Yeah.
If Stadia landed, it could have. I do still believe that it could have changed the gaming landscape.
Yeah.
It's had an impact, but not as much as unfortunately they would have wanted. And I think actually, to continue our kind of story, after as Stadia declined, the growth of our channel slowed, and it took us quite a while after the end of Stadia to really find our identity again.
Yeah, and we always had contingency plans, but I think back to Simon's question of like when you started it, did you have any hopes and aspirations? I think we just wanted it to grow with us at a rate that was, I guess, reasonable. Like we're not expecting like millions and millions of growth. That's ridiculous. I don't know what we'd even have to do. I think you've always said, Richie, it's the time constraints. Like I believe if we could do this full time, we would pick it up because the quality of the content's there. It's just we are restricted by our lives.
Our flagship show's always been the podcast. It's always been news focused. Ideally, that show goes out on a Friday.
Yeah, heading into the weekend.
Because then you got that week's news, bang, there you go. But then we've got news that came out on a Monday. It's a week before we cover it. But we have full-time jobs, we have partners, we've got family, and we've got friends, and other obligations and interests. The time just isn't there for us to be able to drop everything at 5:00 on Friday, jump on, record the podcast, edit it, and get it up. Still on the Friday.
It's even just the mundane shit, right? Like the pots need washing, the clothes need washing, ironing, putting away, drying, like stuff that a lot of obviously the younger audience who start now is their commitments are, I just live in my own bedroom at home. My mum and dad pay the bills and that's it. I just have ultimate free time like we all had once upon a time. But to put that kind of spare time energy, like the amount of hours we sacrificed from just video gaming to make content. Like I'm very much up sometimes in the early hours of the morning and the weekend, either prepping show notes or making a thumbnail to save me time through the weekend so I can spend it with my family or go out and see friends instead. And that's because part of me, I want that prepped and done so I know it's ready to go. But at the same time is it does take something away, and almost like my hobby of gaming, ironically, is handicapped now because my spare hours are spent planning, prepping, editing, tweaking.
Something we've always said, we don't want the YouTube channel get in the way of the hobby. The hobby is gaming.
Yeah, and I think we've got a good
together.
Balance. Yeah, we've got a great balance for that. Lee in the chat says, just want to say I appreciate what you guys do. Look forward to the podcast every Monday, even though I get it early. And I love the live stream, especially if I can join in. And it's comments like that, Lee, that generally like kind of really just raise, I think, our energy levels when it comes to it.
Slightly weird when people like Lee is saying like, oh, every single Monday I listen to your show. It's like, we're a part of your life. That's just a weird thing for just two guys who are friends with a few microphones. It's
and
it's humbling. It really is.
It really is humbling, and in a roundabout way. I know we listen to a few other gaming podcasts and stuff, and I know like we Kind of Funny is like a massive inspiration for both of us in terms of just like how we lay out our shows and the way we want to be with our members, and they always refer to their members as like best friends. And I think when you think of our audience members and a lot of people who showed up today through like the five-year celebration and the full day of streaming, there's so many names now that you said like just pop up and you recognize, and you'd clock them straight away and you remember them, and you almost through the live chat and playing games with them, you understand their personalities, their hobbies and interests themselves, which games they're into, which games they're not into, and it all comes from that like disjointed contact that we have with you on a regular basis. And obviously you hear and know a lot more about our lives, but there is those little touch points that does make it feel like those people you out there in the audience are our friends, like genuinely our friends, because we've been hanging out for 5 years. This
is why I think the decision to set up the Discord, because initially the idea of the Discord was just a way of us capturing the recordings and us for production purposes. But to expand it on to become a hub for the community is why we plug it every single episode. Because I think it's so important to our channel, because it's a social hub and we're in there all the time.
Yeah.
Hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, and it's great. And again, if we had the time to do like more late night games and stream offline and stuff, it's like that's the dream. But until we get to either retirement age or we have the ability to quit our jobs and do it every day, then yeah, it's interesting. But what I do think is an interesting point, and Brendan says in the chat, we feel like a community after so many years, and I think in an ironic, painful twist is the death of Google Stadia is almost like the GamerGuild community, especially. It's almost been like reinforced because of that death, where almost like we've all gathered around the funeral pyre and said like, well, that's an absolute shit show that backfired on us all as early adopters. But then in a weird way, we all kind of went, well, where do we go now? And so many of us picked up Xboxes off the back of it, and so many of us started sharing like, well, I play Switch all the time, or I do PC. And then obviously we brought people like Rob into the show who didn't really have that much to do with Google Stadia to try and kind of like branch out a little bit. And it was just really interesting to see how it's evolved. And I think we've reached that really happy place where, and as our kind of company mantra and our show's mantra is like, play wherever makes you the happiest. We talk about everything. We play everything. Yeah. We're all mature gamers, and we're not beholden to the console wars or anything like that.
We had that mantra even... I think it was me who coined that.
It was,
term.
yeah.
I don't know why it came to me, but even when we covered exclusively Google Stadia, that was still our company mantra.
Yeah. It's because you used to get so much shit for talking about Stadia. Like people go, "Oh, I'll never replace this and do that." It's like, well, we don't care if you like it or not, or you support it or not, or you believe in cloud gaming or not. It was like the whole point in gaming is to have fun. So like it or love it, like just play where you want to play, wherever makes you happiest. I do think that's a testament to, after doing this for 5 years, we've seen such little internet hatred, vitriol, negative comments. Like, I reckon I could count on my two hands how many genuinely negative comments we've had in 5 years.
And quite usually, if one of us see it, we'll message the other, and it's quite hilarious.
It is funny,
like how off these comments are about who we are as people.
And
it's like, no, you're not. You don't watch our content. You don't know who I am. You're talking out your ass.
And that has been the great thing with having a podcast, as you've always said. Like, we're not trying to condense things down to 50 characters or anything. We have an hour plus to talk about our thoughts towards it, to expand
on the nuance. We can show our working.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something with like things like a lot of social media, and it's why shorts are useful, but I wouldn't want to try and condense our ideas into a short, because you don't have time to show your working.
Yeah.
So you can make your point, but it's like, how do you get the point is often more valid than the point itself.
Yeah. And my approach with internet trolls and people like that has always been just kill them with kindness. Like, don't let on that they get under your skin at all, because that's what they want. So we tend to just reply to them in like an overly positive manner. I think Richie, our most recent one, was one of your Zelda streams, had some guy drop in and leave a comment saying like, "Oh, you said it was like one of the greatest games of all time," and he almost like tried to mock you for that. And
well, there's one like, and there's other things like I got stuck in the water temple. Oh my god, Ocarina of Time got stuck in the water temple, and the guys in the comments saying, "Look up," and it's like, watch the fucking video, and you'll see it go out of there.
Yeah, you're not stuck there.
It was
forever.
A live stream, and by the end of that stream, I'd completed the temple, so I figured it out.
Yeah, you have to laugh at it. But yeah, I think I replied to him through our channel feed eventually, saying like, it's always like, thanks for your creative and positive feedback. We'll try to do better. And then they'll always try and make it a little bit angrier. And it's like, thank you once again for your positive feedback and your creative input. And just almost go like, just shine a light on them and go like, look how useless your comment is. There's no need for it whatsoever. And I want to
highlight a comment in the chat. Ted saying, I can't always join the live streams as often as I would like to because of time zones. I do watch everything, and I appreciate the fact you've created a safe and enjoyable community. That's on you guys as much as us, the community.
100%.
Like, yeah, we can go, he's the values of the community, but it's you guys who have to live them as well as us.
Yeah. And we've always said we would safeguard that. Like, as soon as anyone's an arsehole or acts or behaves in the wrong way that isn't just like normal society stuff, you're getting turfed out, because there's no need for it. We haven't come across it yet. But if someone suddenly started being like I don't know, slightly racist or bullying or anything like that, like they'd be gone. Like this just isn't. It's not that kind of place. So yeah,
I've never had to do it, but I actually would be ruthless if someone was being racist or sexist or homophobic in the Discord. I would just you're gone.
Like, sorry.
I wouldn't even message you. I'd just gone. Just don't. There's no need.
What if it was me?
But I know you. I've known you my entire life. Yeah. How many years is it? Like 31 years we've known each other?
Yeah, pretty much 31 years. Yeah. Too long, some would say. Too long. I just want to shout out a couple. I just want to shout out a couple of comments as well. We will get to your questions, by the way, as we expand on them. We branch out. If you are in the chat, don't worry. We'll scroll back and we'll find it. Shout out to Steve Nelson dropping a £10 super chat in there. Says he's to another 5 years, guys. Absolutely, Steve. I'll drink to that. Thank you again for sticking with us. He also says, wish I could join more, but family life get in the way. And that's the thing, Steve. Like, we totally understand that. There's people who come and go through our content. I know there's people who are with us through Stadia, maybe don't tune in as much as our content's evolved. But I think if you're genuinely into gaming, like the great point we're at now is where we talk about everything and we have feeds for everything. And I haven't touched my Nintendo Switch in ages, but I'm still actively curious about gaming to a point where like I want to read about how well Zelda's doing and what's going on the other side of the coin. I might not be into Arya Story Untold on Xbox, but I'm consciously aware of it, that I want to see how it does and how it reviews and stuff. And I might not read the full in-depth review, but I want to, like, I just want to be aware of this stuff because it's my hobby and it's my interest. It's like sports. People who are into football check scores of like the Brazilian Pro League or what's going on with this footballer who plays in a different league and stuff, because you just kind of want to live and breathe your hobby a little bit more than just playing it. Like, everyone can play games pretty much, but it's that extra level of interest that I think we as a community collectively have. So don't worry if you're not there for it all. None of us are there for it all. In fact, I tried to get away for the whole summer to avoid all this content. But we're both back now. We're both back. I don't think we even answered the first question there, Richie, in that thing. But in terms of the channel hopes, aspirations, I think we're happy with how it's progressing. We've hit a really good positive swing at the moment where we started putting out a couple of shorts for like Astrobot and like relevant news topics, just really quick videos, and we've had like 100+ subscribers in the last month, which is our highest rate rise ever, and that's off the back of the 5, 6, 7 shorts I put out to do with Astrobot.
Thank you, Astrobot.
Thank you, Astrobot, you little beauty.
There's a reason there was a Zelda short went up today. Because stuff like that we've got a bit of traction. Yeah. But I think we did answer the questions. Like, we kind of had hopes and aspirations that the channel grow. Anytime you start something like this, you want to see it succeed. Mm-hmm. And more success is good as long as you keep true to your values. But we've never been ones to chase the numbers.
No.
I think we've always been true to the content that we want to make. We're not there trying to be influencers. We're not trying to be content creators, chasing after YouTube's whims. We just produce the content we want to create. And hopefully it lands in the feeds of the people who are interested in that content. Yeah,
absolutely. We need to trust in the algorithm for that. But I do like the trajectory we're on. It's been a long time coming where we've been aiming for that 2K mark. And as you said, when Stadia died, we got stuck on 1,500 for ever.
Like 2 years.
My word. Like, that needle did not move beyond a certain number for such a long time. Like, we'd go up 5 subs and then we'd lose 6. No. We'd go up 10 and then we'd lose 9. It was like, God, we are crawling along here.
That's testament to what I was saying. The channel's growth stagnated, yet we're still sat here doing it because we enjoy doing it.
It's a hobby. We didn't pack our toys up and leave because we didn't see that growth, because that's not what we're here for. Ultimately, we're here to talk video games, and if people want to join us on that journey, yes. Do we see ourselves doing it in another 5 years' time? I don't see why not. Unless anything changes. Possibly. Like, again, it's that thing where it's just like, the only difference really, Richie, is that we're not in a pub doing this. We're sat in front of camera, and that's about it. Should we try and get to some live chat questions? Because I know the folks were here in the live chat. Like, we love the people who wrote in on Discord, but they might not necessarily be here, so we'll try and get the live audience a bit more. I'm going to go grab another beer. So
so while you grab another beer,
just want to vamp for a little bit.
I want to thank Steve Nelson for his £10 super chat. Thank you very much. And I shall where do we go? Leah's following you on TikTok now, but no videos. Though. Yeah, we set up the TikTok largely to have it. So if we ever decided to use it, it was there. I can't say for Chris, but I don't use TikTok myself. Even less so since YouTube Shorts became a thing. So that's probably why. No, we could probably put some of our shorts over on TikTok actually. Chris, TikTok. Lisa said he's follows us on TikTok, but no videos. We could look into putting our short over there.
Say that again. Sorry.
On TikTok, we could look into putting our YouTube shorts over on TikTok.
Yeah,
but it's not something. It's not a platform I'm actually familiar with the back end of, to be honest.
It's not even the back end aspect. I think it's back down to what we said, and it's time management and converting it onto another platform means me or Richie needs to spend a further 5 to 10 minutes uploading it, doing the tags, putting the title in, copying, pasting something over, and it's just that stretch where we don't have the manpower to do it. It's like it's on social feeds. Like we use Twitter predominantly. I'm trying to get better at using Threads, and then you've got Instagram sat there, Facebook, but they don't all communicate. They don't all translate the data. So I can't copy and paste a tweet into Instagram because links don't work on Instagram. So it's essentially just a static image with a paragraph underneath it, and I don't think that brings any audience in. You can do hashtags, but I don't know what that does. Same with Threads. It does work a little bit better when you copy it over from Twitter, and it even pulls the YouTube video through. But we've got an audience of less than 100 on Threads because I don't really know how to grow that, and I don't have time to retweet and repost and share news and all the stuff that I would like to do to grow it. Like every time PlayStation put out something interesting, share it. Or make a unique image that's bespoke to our channel and then share it. So it looks like we're almost like a gaming news channel as well as the podcast. So it's like a supplement. I don't have the time to do. I just don't. Between life and work and kids and my own patience, I don't.
I do the bare minimum of social media, to be honest. I've just got too many different interests. I don't want to spend my entire life writing tweets. I think we're going to Brendan's question. Which video game world would you like to live in? Keep in mind, you're not necessarily the main character.
Which video game world would I like to live in? A safe one, probably, but that's hard to come by in the world of video games.
Shall we narrow this down and go, it has to be predominantly a video game universe, not a multimedia, so it could have its origins, as long as its origins are in video games. So, for example, you couldn't say Hogwarts Legacy, because
it's a different. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Likewise, Star Wars, just to narrow the scope a bit.
Okay. For an easy life, I'm gonna say Animal Crossing. I'd like to just live in Animal Crossing with Tom Nook and build a little chill cottage, go fishing, and. Yeah, or maybe Disney Dreamlight Valley. That's quite pain-free as well. Albeit there's a couple of villains in there to keep it interesting. I think, Animal Crossing's a safe bet. No risk of death. How about you?
Plague Tale. No.
You just want to live your life in fear, running from rats and disease.
I don't know. I'm probably the same as you, realistically. It's a boring answer, but... somewhere safe.
If you got to live there, right?
Yeah, you got to live there.
I don't want to be an NPC getting killed every 20 minutes and respawning and dying again. That's just not a life.
And as cool as like a fantasy universe would be, if you're not the main character, you're probably a peasant with no money and living in squalor.
Yeah, and someone just comes along and buys all your goods for next to nothing.
Yeah, and if you could go high roll, but then some dick with a sword and a green cape comes in and throws your pots around and steals all your shit.
Absolutely.
And he goes, yeah, but I'm a hero. And fucks off and fights a pig monster.
And when they're gone, you just have to stand still.
Yeah.
Can't do anything. But yet, it's an interesting one. Brendan also writes in the live chat and says, if you could go back in time and buy a system you don't have or you didn't have, which one would it be? I mean, it helps that we did our ranking console list.
Yes,
I think it's the conversation's fresh in my mind of what I didn't own and what I did want.
I don't know, because it's one of them situations where the choices you make have led us to here. I don't know I would want to change anything about my gaming history. There's obviously games I would have liked to play, consoles I would like to own. But by say, I could say PS3 because I didn't own one. But then I wouldn't be spending time. If I bought a PS3, it would be the time I spent playing World of Warcraft would be gone. Because I would have been playing things like Uncharted and stuff at that time. But
all right, what if it's just purely for nostalgia and you wish you had it on your shelf?
Oh, on my shelf.
This is just a system that you wish you had, but you didn't. You could go back and get it. So it doesn't say necessarily about the games, just like if you want it. Mine personally is if I could go back to Thursday and just nab a 30th anniversary PS5 Pro. That's a system I wish I had, just to have and to maybe sell.
Can I just say all of them?
Oh, that, yeah.
All of them.
Even the 3DO and the Philips CD?
Well, I said in the live stream earlier, I would love to. I wish I still had my 3DO. It's a D tier console, but well, technically it's an F tier console, but we didn't have an F. PS3 is definitely up there. I think GameCube would be awesome.
Yeah, I think.
I didn't own one of them either.
PS3.
SNES and Sega Mega Drive. I'd love to still have one of them.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is the thing. It's like you think of any of the great consoles of the times. Like, yes, I want one.
Yeah, absolutely not. I think if I could go back and maybe replace my Blu-ray collection with just gaming nostalgia instead, like so that back wall is just the history of video games.
My Game Boy Color. I no longer have it. That's my answer.
Game Boy Color. Just your specific one, or just a Game Boy Color? With the little dent in the side and a scratch in the screen that you remember doing.
I want to go on my specific one because that one was mine. Because I could buy a Game Boy Color.
Yeah, I like it. I think mine would be an N64 because I had so many hours of fun playing it, but it was always restricted to my cousin's house around my uncle and auntie's. So I had all the joy in the world on the PlayStation, but going around there for 2 to 3 hours when we popped around with the family, and my mum and dad would have a cup of tea and a chat downstairs, adult talk, and I would always go up and we'd be in the tiniest little bedroom of a 2-bedroom terrace house. There'd be me, my cousin, my 2 cousins, and my brother. So there was 4 of us crammed in on bunk beds and on the floor, huddled around a small CRT TV, playing GoldenEye, 4-player. Like, could you get better than that when you're like 7-8-year-old? Like, or Mario Kart, or watching them show off Mario 64, and me being like, we have nothing like this on the PlayStation. Turok, I remember when my cousin got Turok and thinking like, this is epic. Like, as a huge Jurassic Park fan, there was just so much of the 64 library that, yeah, if I could have. I know I mentioned a couple of weeks on the podcast ago, I was like looking at the blue transparent one on eBay and thinking like, oh, is it one that I need for my wider collection?
Do you know how many N64s I've looked at on eBay? Because mine doesn't actually work. The reason mine doesn't work is I got many years ago, the house I was living in got broken into. My N64 got stolen. It got left out in the rain and hasn't worked ever since.
Bollocks.
I don't have the heart to throw it out, and I haven't attempted to fix it.
Yeah, I don't even know where you'd start with that. It's got to be like the motherboard or something, right? It's probably rusty or fried.
I have no idea, but I don't have the heart to throw out because I bonded with that console so much. Yeah. And I'm glad I haven't thrown it out because now it's a set piece and it's actually never on set because it lives on the top of that unit off camera, but it's always there. Watching
down on you from above.
And in fact, my Wasabi Stadia controller's underneath it.
So it's the 2 dead platforms watching down on you from above.
You can see the bottom of the Nintendo shelf where you can see that.
I can see it. The chat won't be able to. Yeah, the audience won't be. But yeah, the
shelf above my PlayStation is where my Switch lives.
I like that. Looking down on us all.
Yeah.
Great questions, guys. Keep them coming. If you're watching along live, again, this is your opportunity to talk with us. That isn't news or it's not video game specific. You can get into anything. Do we have any more questions? I'm just scrolling back up.
Digital or physical? It's a quick one, I reckon.
Roger, thanks for stopping by. I mean, physical, right? Like we almost deviated with our cloud Google Stadia days, but I think for me, like physical, I think as I look back over the years, like I'm so happy that I managed to retain, like as a child growing up, and there was always often the opportunity to sell for cash, and I did sell some over the years, like as we all do. We do trade-ins and we do pre-owned and whatnot, or we give them to friends and family and we never see them again. Looking at you, Rob, if you are out there, you still have my copy of James Pond on the Sega Mega Drive. I
think I've still got his copy of Rogue Squadron for the N64.
Yeah, it was probably a big trade around for it. I think did I get James Pond off him and I lent him something? But I don't think we ever traded it back. But either way, yeah, I love I've got PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, 3, 4, 5, like on a shelf right down here. Like you guys can't see it, but Richie knows about it.
Yeah.
And it's just like I'm going through the phase now of like slowly building it up to like all games that I remember that I sold on, just acquiring them again. Because if you go on eBay, some of them are like $2.99. This week alone, Richie, I paid 99 pence for the disc for 2002 FIFA World Cup. Why did I do that? Because I did an inventory check on my collection, realised that I had the box, I had the brochure, the booklet inside. Yeah. Fuck knows where the disc's gone. Probably at my brother's house.
Yeah, probably.
But you know what?
It's probably in a bin.
Quick look at eBay, 99p. I was like, you know what? To have the whole collection of memories I have for that random sports game from 2002, I'll do it just to complete the collection. So yeah, physical for me every day.
I'm with you for physical for a few reasons. One, while I do think cloud gaming is still the future of gaming eventually, I think the timeline's completely shifted from 5 years ago when we started the Sounds of Stadia podcast.
Yeah.
Game preservation.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. Yeah.
Physical wins. And if you don't buy your games day and date, the depreciation of physical games makes sense. You can save a lot of money. I actually think this is why I went for the disc version of the PS5. It's more money up front, but you will easily make that back over the lifespan of a console by, like, how much does Star Wars Outlaws go for now? Physical. It's probably already dropped 10 quid.
Probably like 60 quid, I would reckon, 55-ish.
Give it 6 months, you're looking 40 quid. So there's maybe 20, 25 quid saving on one game in 6 months.
Yeah.
Because it's just commerce. Amazon have warehouses full of stuff, and if the stuff's not selling, they discount it to get it out of the warehouse so the next thing can go there.
Yeah.
Digital doesn't have the same issue.
Yeah, physical. I think physical for us, especially if we do intend and keep the channel going for further years. Like we've got more recently, we've gone into retro a little bit. You've been doing old Zelda games. I've gone back and checked out some PlayStation 3 titles. Like even recently, like we went out and checked Deadpool. It's not available on digital stuff. You cannot buy Deadpool digitally because it got pulled down for copyright reasons. And with the lead up to Deadpool and Wolverine, you and me got to jump in. We checked out Deadpool. We had a great time with it. It's a fantastic little video game. How are you going to do that if you didn't have the disc?
The advantage of digital, though, is convenience.
100%. I'm not denying it. Like, trust me, I would love not to get off my ass to swap out disc copies when I want to go from Space Marine to Star Wars Outlaws. Yeah. But for those extra 20 seconds, I can play them indefinitely into the future, whereas people can't do that. Yeah, I think physical is ultimately the best thing long-term wise, but obviously there's convenience cost to that. A quick one from Roger in the chat says, what do you guys think of GeForce Now? So naturally, Roger, when we started our Google Stadia podcast and we started covering cloud gaming as a whole, GeForce Now was always part of that conversation, and we're huge fans of it. I think after Stadia's demise, GeForce Now was the ultimate way to cloud game. I think GeForce Now is actually better than Stadia in terms of quality nowadays. Yeah, I mean nowadays it 100% is.
If you're on the right plan.
Yeah, if you're on the top tiers. I think the queue system's still a bit messy.
Yeah. See, this is the thing I don't like about GeForce Now. For any of the paid tiers, if I have to sit in the queue or have my game time arbitrarily restricted, I'm not paying that fee. If I'm paying for free for access to the service for games I've bought elsewhere, I want access when I want it and for how long I want it. I don't want to sit in the queue. And that is the only thing that's really stopped me getting into GeForce Now. When they change that policy, I'm interested. But the reason we haven't really covered it too much on the channel, apart from other stories here and there, is because it's not. That's all it is news-wise. You get the odd story. There might be a story where they're upgrading the servers. 6 months later, here's a few more games coming.
Yeah, I think
there's not enough substance when we were looking at different shows.
Yeah,
that's why we didn't start a GeForce Now podcast.
Yeah, I think ultimately as well, because it's more of a supplement to kind of PC gamers, like great if you've got a massive Steam library, because you can just play it in the best top tier performance cloud. But as someone who doesn't, as the previous question answered, all of my collection's physical, so I have very little digital Steam games, and therefore GeForce Now, I open it up, I access it, I've got all this super fast NVIDIA tier system ready for me in the cloud, but I don't own anything to play on it. And I don't want to start that digital collection because physical is right here waiting for me. So, but it is a great service ultimately.
I have a decent Steam library, but it's old because during the early PS4 era of gaming, so we're probably talking 15 years ago plus now. My PC at the time was on its last legs. I didn't have the money to invest in a new gaming PC. My flatmate was moving out at the time as well, so I needed to buy a TV because the TV in their flat was his. So I needed to buy a TV, and I needed to buy a new gaming device. So this is when I made the switch to go PS4. And in fact, the first PC that I used while making content, and it's why some of my first edits are absolutely atrocious, and Lost Words was such a pain, was that same PC, which was at that point 5 years plus that I'm looking at and go, that needs replacing.
Yeah.
So because it's been a long time since I bought a game on Steam, I don't need GeForce Now to play any of my Steam library.
Yeah. It's in, but as far as the service goes, it's the best in class out there.
100%.
So yeah, it's fantastic. Ted's kind of follow up to the physical digital question is says, unfortunately, physical media of any kind has been in the decline. Most people are not watching DVDs or listening to CDs. Maybe gaming is different. And I think that's where you're absolutely right, Ted. I think gaming is different because of the input nature of it. Like, I can listen to the exact same album that my dad owns on a vinyl record from the 80s because it's just on Spotify. It's there, it's accessible, and my interaction with that medium is exactly the same. I sit down, I listen, I enjoy. Same with a movie. If I want to watch a DVD or a VHS tape from years and years ago, if it's available digitally, I watch it, I get the same enjoyment, and it's the same content. But with a video game, it has the input. Every time I play a video game, I decide to go left, I decide to go right, I decide to jump over the hoops. And because of that physical input that you need, the medium doesn't translate because you need the input, you need the peripherals, you need the storage, you need the performance to work, or the port or the ROM or whatever it ends up being.
It's more tied to the tech.
Yeah, it is. It's not just, it can't just I mean, we argued earlier on about PlayStation 3's cell processor holding back the forward ports of those games being available on current tech. There's reasons why Infamous and Resistance are stranded in Metal Gear Solid 4. Metal Gear Solid 4 is not playable on a PlayStation device.
PlayStation
Madness.
could emulate, with the PS5, they could emulate these things.
I'm sure they're working on it, 100%.
I'm sure they're not.
Oh,
because what they want to do is sell you the game again as a remaster or a remake.
I mean, that too. I'll take that for preservation standpoint and if it's polished and better. But yeah,
when Nintendo went the other way and went, you know what, we're doing Switch Online. Switch Online is an emulator. You are playing games through an emulator natively on your Switch, which is a weird move from Nintendo. But thank you for that because it's only about 35 quid a year.
Yeah. But it's that preservation element. I have Super Mario All-Stars for the Switch, physical, because it was a limited run. It's a collection of 3 classic titles, 2 of which I've never even played before. But the nostalgia part of me and the reverence for those titles and appreciating them made me fork out 50 quid at launch maybe it was, 40, 50 quid. Never even touched it. But I want to own those pieces of history in 5-10 years to come. So if I want to play them, or my daughter maybe wants to play them, like they're there, preserved on a cartridge for me to just stick in and play. So I think video games it's a very, very different medium, and I'll be very interesting to look back in 10 years, in 20 years, and just see how things are different. Like realistically, Richie, this copy I've got here of, let's pick out a random one, shall we? The original Metal Gear Solid collection. Well, not collection, sorry, just game.
Yeah.
Like, where does this stand in the history of video games in 25 years' time? When PlayStation 1s are ultra rare? Yes, there's ported versions, and we've inevitably got a remake. But the original, where does it sit in the pantheon of, like, collectibles and history? And just, like, having it physically to just put in and play in its original format, where the DualShock will rumble, it will read my memory card, like all those little things. They're not going to be there.
You have to put,
yeah,
for a certain boss fight, no spoilers, you might have to change what part your controller's in.
No spoilers for a game so old, but you know what I mean. It's like we won't know until we get there. But I think DVDs, music, like every other medium, they've hit their point. Where they've converted, and the society is fine with it, but I think games are inherently so different. It's going to be such a curious case to follow.
It's all linked to the hardware you play them on.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Let's have a look at any more questions we've got, Richie, from the live chat as we get through these.
Going to nip the loot and grab a beer.
You're going to nip the loot. Don't do them in the wrong order. Al Davis Music is in the chat. Evening, Al. Sarge, swift one from me again. Stopping by, no problem. We appreciate that. Let's see. Brendan says, also, if you had time for a new hobby, which you choose, for example, I will have more time to play an instrument. I play the saxophone. Oh, nice. You're a saxy man. But I just don't have the gaps in the schedule to play. Time for a new hobby. God, there's so many hobbies out there. I think about this all the time. And it's just the nature of, like, I tell myself I can't wait for retirement just to have maybe that time, but I won't, because I'll be looking after my daughter, my grandchildren, whatever it may be, whatever it looks like, my parents, who knows. But yeah, I think all the time, like, I really enjoy reading, but I manage to somehow get through like 2 books a year, if that, sometimes. But when I get into a book properly, like, I absolutely like demolish the thing, get through it in no time whatsoever. And then before I start a new one, I think, I'd rather play this video game, or I'd rather catch up on this TV show. And yeah, reading is always a hobby that I wish I really, really had more time to. Just like detach myself from the world, turn a page and enjoy a book from anything. In terms of other hobbies, like I'm currently trying to learn French. I'm trying to learn that through Duolingo. I'm currently on a 155-day streak. Trying to learn it ahead of going on holiday this year. I did quite well, managed to book 1 table in French before messing up. And then I guess pivoting, I want to keep doing it. I think that's the thing. Now I've got the app and I'm paying for it. I've got like a yearly subscription. I want to really just like push myself to do a little bit more. So I think learn a language, I think, is always one that I think everyone should strive to try and do. Is a big one. And I think our education system lets us down a little bit in the UK with learning another language. Me and Richie did German for 2.5, 3 years, and then we did like 1 year of French, like 1 hour a week, which is just nowhere near it. We were saying, I was answering Brendan's question about if you had time for another hobby. So Brendan's trying to learn the saxophone, but he just doesn't have time to really get stuck into to learn it. And I was saying, like, I wish I had more time for reading books. I've tried to learn French. Richie, piano, instruments. Like, you're already competent in the guitar, so you've got that kind of understanding of music a little bit. I failed epically. I bought a guitar, I bought an amp, as everyone kind of does when we go through that phase. And as soon as my fingers really started hurting, I just gave up on it. It went, never mind, not for me. But yeah, I was saying I'm like on a 155-day streak of trying to learn French.
All right.
So I did it for the holiday, and I know I'm going back next year. So, but I really want to like just stick at it rather than just know how to order a beer.
Oh, I don't think I've told you that. Yeah, I'm going to Paris next year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Lovely. Do you know any? Have you learnt any French yet?
No.
You go with the girlfriend.
Yeah.
I know if you want to order a table, you go, how many? Just 2 years, yeah? So that's deux. So, un table pour deux personnes, s'il vous plaît. That'll get you a table. And I'm guessing you know how to order 2 beers, right?
I actually don't.
Deux
My
bières,
French is
s'il vous
terrible.
plaît. Deux bières, s'il vous plaît. Grande.
2 beers, please.
Grande, non petite. Non petite.
Yeah,
Grande. That's probably still wrong and butchered, but but I'm trying. I'm learning. I'm getting to that point where I recognize things and signs and when people are talking. So I still don't know. If someone asks me a question, I have no clue. But what I am learning is I'm going through. Brendan in the chat, very good. Yes. Something about 1 croissant. I'm guessing you want to order a croissant.
I think it's something that, as English people, in our education system, we do very badly compared to other European countries. There's a very kind of arrogance about learning a foreign language in England.
Yeah.
It's something you do a bit of in school, where other countries try to make their people competent.
Yeah, it really should be. And it's like, and we've seen like our friend Luke, who's he's a big part of our channel from behind the scenes a little bit in a way, who we talk to a little bit. Luke learned like Polish because he married his Polish fiance, now wife, and like that language is just impossible. We went over there and we tried when we went over for the wedding to Krakow. Like even us just ordering beers like with Google Translate, we were such epic failures at it.
That was fun though. Was sat in the square in Krakow with our phones. Like the waitress stood there waiting, and we're trying to translate because we wanted to order it in Polish.
I wanted to try. Yeah, I always think that at least appreciate us making an effort, even though we butcher the language. And I know a couple of our viewers and listeners are from across Europe and stuff. So thank you for listening to us in our horrible native tongue, but we try. Not all of us are as ignorant as the tourists you see in Ibiza and stuff make out.
That's a question for me. Did you ever have kind of any nerves or anything about your accent?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very well aware that we have a strong northern accent. Not quite Geordie, not quite Mackham, not quite Smoggy. We're in and around the northeast.
When you first start editing your own voice, it's like, oh my God, that's how I sound.
Yeah. I think that's something over the years I've definitely came accustomed to, is hearing my own voice back, and it no longer makes me cringe.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad people can understand us, really. That's the biggest thing. It's wow. People from other countries, especially when we were doing the early stadia stuff, when we were linking in with people stateside, people from all across Europe. But we've obviously got a lot of people we follow and we link into from Germany and stuff. And just seeing that translate, and with the power of the internet, obviously translation is so much better than it's ever been. But to hear us, especially when we talk fast or passionately, it's very easy to just fall into your native tongue where...
In the early days, I think we were probably a little bit more aware of it, but then when the nerves set in, in the early days, when sometimes when we just sit down to record a podcast in the early days, we're going to record, it's like, oh crap, suddenly I feel nervous.
Yeah.
I've done over 400 of these things now. I just rock up. I'm fine.
Yeah, it's very interesting how you kind of become conditioned towards it. Lee in the chat says, right, drop my phone on my face twice now, so it's time for sleep. Awesome day, guys. Good luck.
Good night, man. Good night.
Yeah, good night, Lee. Thanks for stopping by. This will all be up. I think, actually, Richie, it's probably worthwhile if you feel you want to. I think we'll probably clip this out and just put it up on audio feeds as well for people, if they want to listen to it as a nice celebratory thing. We've got some plans for the Clickercast in the works as well, so you might see them show up on feeds. So we're probably going to blow our budget for Buzzsprout distribution, so we might as well just commit and go all in on whatever. Because of course, with your wonderful support, we're able to do that. So rest easily, have a good one, and the video will be here for when you wake up and you get round to it. Question in the chat from Ted, not gaming related as well, says, you mentioned your friendship over 30 years. How long have you known Rob and Tom for? So Rob is part of our quad. Quadfecta. How would you say it?
There's 4 of us who went to the same nursery and primary school and secondary school and college together, that we've literally known for 30 odd years, pretty much our entire life. You're 35, I'm 34.
All right, rub it in. Next month. Next month. Next month and it's some change.
Yeah, but there's a few months in age difference between you, the oldest, and is it Andy or Rob who's the youngest? birthday's one day set
Andy's
apart. I can,
first, I think.
Yeah.
I think.
But anyway, there's a few months, and we've known each other pretty much since nursery. The exact moment we met, fuck knows. So
I remember meeting Andy. Like I distinctly remember saying, "Hello, I'm Christopher," and he was like, "Hi, I'm Andrew." Like proper formal British first names.
You used to, like in primary school, we used to all be like polo tops, and you being a shirt.
It's uniform. It's a big part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's four of us. We've been friends for forever, and we know this, but we're essentially
still talk all the time now.
Yeah, we're essentially just brothers in arms, as you are. And I think we all have our own connections like with each other. I know with you and me, it's always been gaming. I think with Andy, it's always been sport. And then Rob's kind of just a mixture of everything.
Yeah.
Like everything else I go to Rob for business prowess.
It's like we've just had these relationships form very early on in our lives, and it's just always been solid from then till now.
Absolutely.
There's never been any falling outs or anything like that. There's never been any real drama. It's just
as it is. But as a nice little caveat, did Rob once kick you in the face?
No, he didn't.
We won't get into that here. But yeah, I think if Andy had the schedule free time availability, also has a child as well, and is a teacher, so very, very busy. I think if he had the same interest in gaming as he does for like football and sport, I think he'd be 100% part of this channel, just like Rob and you and me.
If we were to do something like a football manager stream, he'd be 100% be on it probably.
Yeah. Absolutely, and he's not shy of the camera or that because he studied drama at university, so he's not one for shying away from that kind of thing. But so the us all collectively, 31 plus years. In terms of Tom, a little bit late to the party, not through his fault. He lived in Birmingham, and we didn't know him.
But we met Tom through his girlfriend, or now wife,
who we met in college. So yeah, we met her and she was in the chat earlier on, actually. That's Holly. We met her in college, and then Holly met Tom, and then Tom came to my house for a party, got drunk on wine, was sick in my toilet, and that was his introduction to us all.
It's a good start.
It's a good start. I remember him profusely apologising before passing out on my couch.
To us by drinking too much alcohol and talking about nerd shit.
Yeah, I think I remember at the end of the night,
we decided to keep him.
We just gushed over like gaming, Marvel, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. He had like tattoos that were like, I think he had the Lord of the Rings. He had a couple of tattoos that were like gaming inspired or Norse mythology inspired. It was like, we like this guy, we'll keep him.
Yeah.
And then we gave Holly our blessings to marry him and have a family with him, and then the rest is history. I guess we've known Tom 8 years now. Would you say?
Yeah.
I mean, this channel's 5 years, and he was there at the beginning of that. We knew him well before the channel.
Yeah.
So probably like 7-8 years, I would say.
I think one of the first times we actually talked to him outside. The first time we met him was at your party. I think the second time might have been my now girlfriend's wedding.
That's confusing on many levels to our audience, but
my girlfriend's divorced. I was not involved.
You were not involved.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting kind of tale. But Tom just slotted in with our friend group. And there's many other friends we do have out there as well. But
it was one of them. You meet someone, it's like, this is an easy fit. Like, we got on so well, so straight away. I was like, you
just click with certain people, don't you? And we should stress with Tom is he's more than, I think, willing and wanting to be more involved in our channel. It is just the life gets in the way. And he's got two children now, and married life and stuff. And when I've spoke to him candidly, like offline and stuff, it's just like if he could find that time, like he'd 100% be back because he loves it. He thrives off it. Like you've seen, even when he showed up for like guest appearances, he just slots straight back in, and he's like, "Man, you're so good at this. Like you can naturally talk. Like you can see the passion come through, and you know how to address an audience and hang out with an audience." Like he's, again, learning so much from him in the early days as well when it comes to hosting and just being involved with the chat and engaged is like a lesson that we all had to learn.
Do you know the first time I've ever hosted a podcast that Tom's been on was this year?
I remember you saying, yeah.
Yeah, I think that I've been on podcasts with him, just the two of us, a long time ago. But I think it's been several years since it was just me and him. I think the first time I hosted, because he was usually in the early days, it'd usually be you or Tom hosting. It was things like it was Cloud. It was Cloud Quest that I started hosting and really cut my teeth. Side Quest, then Cloud Quest, then I took on XPass, and that's really how I got into hosting. Mm-hmm. But for the first year and a half, 2 years, I didn't really host anything apart from the odd live stream here and there.
Yeah, you had such an easy job.
Yeah, I eased myself.
Those were the days. Those were the days. But yeah, I think we've all came along in terms of our hosting skills. But yeah, that's how we know those people along the way. And you may see more of those faces in the future. I know we often have conversations out with our friends when we're drunk, and they always, again, when we say about being embarrassed early doors, I think everyone in our friend and family circles now, after 5 years, they just know it's part of our lives now. Yeah. I really don't mention. I was talking to some of my colleagues this week about it, and they were inquiring about how it's going, and told them I was doing an anniversary stream this weekend. And you tell your parents what you're up to at the weekend. I go, well, I'm recording a podcast with Richie. We're doing this, we're doing that, and it's just part of they know that's what we do now. And it's good. And we've always said we'd love to involve more of them, because we think the audience will love them just as much as we do, because they're just nice, solid guys who love gaming and are enthusiastic.
On Tuesday, I've got a meeting with a new colleague, and as part of this, it's kind of like a workshop thing going for most of the work day. Mm-hmm. And she's told every person they have to bring a surprising fact about themselves. I'm using GamerGuild.
It's a great one.
A lot of my colleagues might know, but I can sit down in that meeting and go, "Hi, I'm Richie. I've recorded over 400 podcasts over the last 5 years, all about video games."
It's certainly one to be proud of. I think I would quite confidently say I've covered the games industry for 5 years now, in terms of news, and I have evidence to back it up. That it's not just I have a hobby in it. It's oh no, actually I've covered it. I've reported weekly on the news that happens, which is a lot more than some
the tax reports.
Yeah, it's more than
we are a legitimate company.
We have a business. That I was there, but Brendan, back to the language chat in the live chat, says, I get it, being from the USA, we don't value learning another language. I went out of my way and chose to learn Spanish in university and high school. Now after 7 years in Spain, I'm finally bilingual-ish. That's kind of the level I'd love to get at, where you can just seamlessly drop in and out. And I think Spanish is such a good one to have and to know. And if I didn't go to France as often because of the location, and that's where my wife loves going, I think Spanish or German. I kind of want Spanish, German, French, and English. I want them as my quadrilogy of things.
I can speak Northern, but I can't speak English.
Me speak better English, yes. Because I just think they're obtainable, and I have a foundation for those through what little we did learn in school and stuff. But I've been to Germany a few times, and we love it. And every time you go to these places, I think I always pick up so much in a week or 2 weeks on holiday. But then you come home and you get lazy and you stop, which is why I'm trying to commit to the French one.
That's why you need to go on holiday more often.
That's also expensive, so yeah.
I'd love to learn Japanese, actually.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely, but that's so far beyond, I think, my ability. Yeah. It's never going to happen. Brendan says in the chat, as a follow-up, have you ever been recognised on the street?
I have not.
I have not yet either. We did intend this year to sponsor an event that we go to every year, but it didn't materialise this year for venue reasons outside of our control. It got cancelled, but yeah, our intention when we were there last year was, could we get some commercial space here? Could that be a thing we should push for? And I think it was a local beer fest. Someone thought it'd be awesome just to have a banner up. Yeah, just why not? Just throw our logo up on a banner. We were probably very, very cooked at the time.
I spoke to the guy. I got his name. I got our name on
We got contacts and thought, if we come back next year, could we have a banner that just says the GamerGuild Podcast, and see if we can pull in maybe a local audience? Yeah, what's that about? Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting. I guess the nearest thing I've got is at work, because I work all over the country sometimes, and I do a lot of coaching and training virtually. There's been one or two people who've recognised me as the gaming person, and one who's asked if we do a podcast. But I don't know if they knew that through work first, then translated over. But I'd never interacted with them before, so I don't know if like maybe a colleague who knew about it told them, "Oh, that's Chris. He does this." If you know what I mean, I feel like they maybe heard the news secondhand and then checked in with me.
It might be. You're developing a reputation within your business, so we're going. You're the guy to talk to if you need to talk about gaming.
Yeah, and they've said like, "Oh, I knew the one who does that," and I'm like, "How did you know that?" But it did catch me off guard a little bit, and then we proceeded to talk about video games for another half an hour. So it's cool, it works, but yeah, not quite yet. Subscription question from Brendan. Keep them coming, guy. I like this chat, Richie. I like how we're just like going into the night, having drinks, and just crack on. This is what we do down the pub without the headset. Take away the lights.
This is what Sounds of Stadia trains us to do. Host a podcast with nothing to talk about. Yeah,
this is it. So Brendan says, also game subscription question. Has there been a surprise game that you discovered on Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, or Nintendo Online? For me, it was DayZ on Game Pass. In terms of it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff across our channel that we've discovered. Like, I think one of the ones that always stood out to me on Stadia was Orcs Must Die. I had more fun playing that game than I expected to.
Yeah, I think there's probably loads, right, that you just dig into. I'm thinking...
Yeah. Sea of Stars, actually.
Yeah, Sea of Stars was PlayStation Plus.
I was interested, but because it came to PlayStation Plus, it gave me that impetus to give it a go.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with that game to the point where I convinced Chris to play it.
And now I have the platinum in it as well. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I mean, even just recently, like the Plucky Squire, like I wouldn't have bought that if it was like £20 or £15 or whatever it was. Yeah. But it went straight in day one. I played it. I enjoyed what I played, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to stick at this. And yeah, I got the platinum last weekend. So, there's probably so many, Brendan. But it's just like you said, where do you pick out? I think the benefit of Game Pass and Stadia Pro beforehand was just I've had the ability to try so many things that, and specifically for the channel when we used to do first looks for like pretty much anything new because we were grasping at straws with Stadia. There's been so many. Guilt's one that I don't think I probably would have checked out. We thoroughly had fun playing through like baby's first horror game almost in Guilt. But yeah, it was really good. I'm just you could probably get a list up and I'd be able to name about 10 things that I wouldn't have otherwise tried. But really good.
Pull up our Let's Play playlist on the YouTube channel
just to have a look through. We got a next question, Ted. Is Jeff still involved with the challenge? Very good question, Ted. No, Jeff's not. He's kind of done his own thing. He did. Obviously, we got him involved with Talking the PS when we did our PlayStation podcast, and I think he realised early doors that the commitment time required for like a weekly podcast. I almost didn't feel like he knew that it was a weekly thing or we expected him to be there weekly. So that kind of became like less and less sporadic. And then the reality is we shut Talking the PS down, and Jeff is 100% PlayStation through and through. So talking about Xbox, Nintendo, PC, cloud gaming, which again, he had no involvement in Google Stadia at all. Like he didn't have it. He's purely just PlayStation and trophies. It kind of became a thing where it's like, oh, actually, if you're not here for trophies, you're not here for PlayStation, it kind of just like naturally eased down. I think because Rob was there as well, it kind of meant we didn't really lose anything because Rob was there as well. We already had our bigger party, our expanded family as such. But we've knew him for probably 10 years now through similar circumstances. 10 years, met friends of family, and then he was the partner of a friend, and it just kind of went through there. But yeah, he still does his own thing. He still does his own trophy stuff on the side. And yeah. Next question. Dwemma Tom writes in and says, are you interested in the Oasis reunion? Interested to the point of getting tickets? No. If I could get tickets, would I go? 100%. I'm not like their biggest fan, but I 100%. I love loads of their songs.
Yeah, I like Oasis. I think they're all a bunch of dickheads, to be honest. But I like the music.
Yeah, I mean, as individuals, they're not the nicest of people.
Yeah, not interested enough to even try for tickets. If someone give me tickets, absolutely 100% I would go. If they bring out new music, I'm interested. I'm more interested in Linkin Park, though.
Even with a different lead singer?
Yeah. I think she's doing. There's some controversy around her. I'm not going to get into. Look it up if you're interested. The two new songs of theirs I've heard, I like both of them.
Good.
I think she does a cracking job. It's a different singer. Some of the songs she has to sing in a different key.
Yeah.
So it might be a bit jarring at first.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they went for a female singer rather than a male singer, but you can't replace Chester Bennington.
Yeah.
He was that good of a singer. He's just basically irreplaceable.
Mm-hmm.
But time's passed. I'm glad when you hear them talk, I've listened to a lot of interviews. They kind of came back organically. They weren't trying to restart the band.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to look at it,
hanging out,
isn't it?
making music together, and it's like, oh shit, Link Park's up again.
It's the same with like Queen and Adam Lambert and Journey with Arnel Pineda and stuff. Yeah. It's like they're never going to be the original. So, but if you like that type of music and that genre, just see it as a new band that can get as close to the originals as possible, but with a different path to take. And I think, like I've seen Journey live with Arnold Pineda. He just replicates Steve Perry like almost one for one. But they also play all the old songs, and you get some of the new ones in there as well. Queen and Adam Lambert. I don't think Adam Lambert's anywhere near Freddie Mercury to make me want to go see them. But they're the type of things that I do regret that we can't see. And me and the wife were looking at getting Aerosmith tickets for the tour, and Steven Tyler's had to retire because his vocals are just like, he had like medical procedures and stuff, and they've just called it a day. And it's like, fuck, I didn't get to see Aerosmith live, which would have been like such a cool like final thing to go see. But yeah, music aside, Oasis, I would definitely go see them. But I wouldn't want to spend the money and or wait in the queues. I actually said to my work colleagues this week when I was trying to get the PlayStation 30th anniversary gear, like when they were going like, what are you doing on your phone, Chris? Why are you in a queue for this? And I was like, look, everyone, you know what I'm like with my video gaming? This is my Oasis. This is my Taylor Swift tickets. So please forgive me if throughout the meeting I'm on my phone and or checking something. I'm trying to acquire a 30th anniversary DualSense controller. And they were very open and allowed me to, which I do highly appreciate.
Everyone shut up and let me do my nerd shit.
Let me do my nerd shit, yeah. Brendan asks, Game of the Year 2024, Final Fantasy, Astro, Zelda. I think we won't go into it because we always do an end of year full episode on that. But do you want to give just like your current front runner, Richie?
Zelda, I think, will be in the nominations. I don't think I'll get it because of the style of game it is. I think Astro might get it, or Helldivers.
Is this isn't yours? This is, I guess.
Helldivers are slowed down. Yeah.
I think it's Astro.
Shadow of the Air Tree was this year.
Yeah, but it's DLC.
Yeah, so I think that'll count against it.
I think and hope it's Astrobot.
I think so too. I think it's Astro. Although with it being, yeah, I'm leaning towards Astro.
So good. Ted follow-up question also says, I'm interested in Helldivers 2, but I was told it's no good if you play solo. What are your thoughts? Ted, it's perfectly fine to play solo. I played majoritively single player. It does obviously team you up with people online, but it's not because it's PvE, you're not versing those people, you're all in the same squad, so it's in everybody's best interest to work together to kill the bugs, to kill the Terminator robots. I think I got up to level 30. Predominantly single player. Played a little bit with my brother, played a little bit with some friends, played a little bit with Rob, but ultimately I was jumping in, doing 20-minute matches, 40-minute, 1-hour sessions on my own with strangers. And you don't need to have conversation on because a lot of it can be done through directional cues and pin tagging. So you can just go tag a terminal and it'll go, quick, get the thing over there. Tag an enemy, it'll go enemy sighted. It kind of does everything without the need to actually speak to other human beings, and that's why it did so well.
And one of the things it's being praised for is the community. How it's not toxic. I've seen if you're a bit shit, people help you out.
Yeah, it's
no one's going, oh my god, who's this person? Who's this noob in our team bringing us down? It's like, mate, you need to help out. Come on, let's go.
Yeah,
well, it's
for democracy.
It's a positive community.
Yeah, and again,
the scene in online space.
The thing is, if anyone doesn't look after you. You all have to get out on the same ship. So at the end of every mission, you have to get to a extraction point, and you get surrounded by bugs or robots or something while there's like a 2-minute countdown for your aircraft to come and pick you up. So it's in their best interest to have an extra member of their team fully geared up, fully healed, ready to fight the enemy, because if you're a man down, it makes you getting out harder, and if you get out harder, you lose points and you lose coins to spend on skins and weapon upgrades and whatnot. So it is in everyone's best shared interest, and that's why, because it's PvE and not PvP, it works so well for that game, because everyone had to fight for each other, everyone hates the bugs, everyone hates the robots, and you're doing it for democracy. That's why. And you'd be perfectly fine, Ted. Yeah, but Astro's so good. Right, Richie, let's get back to our Discord server.
Yes.
And see other questions. We've answered Big Lawrence question, I think. Derek, we can do quick fire ones for Derek. Writes in and says, what is your all-time favourite console? Go, Richie.
Console N64.
Oh, interesting.
But it's such a nostalgic console for me.
Favourite's a tough one, isn't it? I'm thinking... I think ultimately it has to be the PS4, just because of like we said earlier on, that library. You could leave me with a PS4 and I'll be happy for eternity.
I would be, but I think the nostalgia I have for my N64, it's kind of so rooted into my history as a gamer. Yeah. In like a formative way. It's that and the Game Boy. Okay. My Game Boy Color.
What about favourite controller then? Derek's wrote in with a list of things, so... Controller.
Should I go controversial and go mouse and keyboard? Because
I mean, if you want to have that with your WASDAX and your clicky crab hands.
100%. First-person games are better with mouse and keyboard. However, it's the Google Stadia controller.
Wow.
It is the most comfortable controller for my hands. The DualSense is objectively the best controller I've ever used. The Google Stadia controller is more comfortable.
Wow. I don't know what more to say to that. I think mine...
It's just legit. Let's have a look at all my controllers. I like the red one.
I do think the DualShock 4 is like just... It's perfect form for everything. But then now my DualSense collection is getting bigger. I look at them sometimes. The what?
The DualSense is more comfortable.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And
I mean, mine's ugly because mine's the traditional.
Having finished Astrobot and knowing everything it can do, and I mean, let's face it, when that 30th anniversary controller arrives in November, I think that'll say. I think it's got to be the DualSense. I think it's revolutionized controllers yet again. I do have a big soft spot for the Stadia controller, but I don't think I've spent enough time with it to genuinely say I think it's my favorite. They never put out any more colors.
The trigger's a bit soft,
so clicky as well, and
I didn't mind the clickiness.
Ultimately,
the trigger's a bit light.
Yeah, ultimately great controller, but yeah, not my favorite. DualSense for me. And what about all-time favorite game or franchise? I'll give you a franchise as well, because I think sometimes games they have to be a collective entity. It's like movies. I always say my favorite movies are Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's not one of them. It's the three. Yeah, it's the story. So game and or franchise then.
This is the hard one. Ocarina of Time, it always comes to mind, but so does Pokemon.
You got to pick one.
The thing is, when I think about this, I think that it's so heavy based on nostalgia. Because I think about what games do I go back to, regardless how old I am, what are the games I will always go back to? And I will always go back and play Ocarina of Time. I will always go back and play some Pokemon game. I'm going to go... Fuck, this is hard. It literally is a coin toss.
Derek says no sitting on the fence.
No sitting on the fence, so I am going to go...
Chat, feel free to drop
Zelda.
yours in, by the way, while Richie deliberates.
I'm going to go Zelda because I think some of the most recent Pokemon games were massive flops, and I didn't enjoy them. The game, I didn't like the fact that it went so open. I got my Pokemon up to like level 70, 80, and I hadn't even finished most of the story content. Is like, it was a bit too big and glitchy, and where Zelda seems to constantly deliver. So Zelda.
Interesting.
Also,
Superman.
Literally wearing a t-shirt.
What is that, by the way?
Triforce.
You say that like I'm supposed to know what it means.
So the Triforce is a triangle.
Like Earth, Wind, and Fire?
That is the crest of Hyrule.
Right. I knew it was Zelda, but I didn't know if it had any relevance. Yeah. Not the Zelda franchise for me, if you couldn't already tell from that. People in the chat, Brendan saying Zelda franchise, Assassin's Creed franchise. Yeah, Assassin's Creed as a franchise is pretty solid. If I was to say one particular game, mine is Uncharted, hands down. I think character storytelling, graphics, replayability. Like, I go back to Uncharted for the story, like a good movie trilogy or quadrilogy or series. I played it through with my wife. She now loves them, so like I've got like that extra layer of like bonding over some like media, which is always great. Like, we go back, we take turns. I do the hard parts, we do the story bit together, the puzzle solving and stuff, and just it's ultimately everything I loved about Indiana Jones growing up in a video game, and it's just so good. And it's Naughty Dog's craft at its best. Like, The Last of Us is close, but the violence and the depression element of The Last of Us means the vibe of Uncharted wins out for me if I was to go back to it. And the multiplayer was fun.
Like I say, when you play Uncharted with your wife, you do the hard part, where it's more likely if I was playing with my girlfriend, she does them for me.
Hey, it's different people, right? I do have a soft spot for the Assassin's Creed franchise, though, but they unfortunately never hit the heights of Uncharted. Like, every Uncharted game for me is like 9, 10 out of 10.
I always enjoy Assassin's Creed. I'm always slightly disappointed by Ubisoft games in general. They're never quite as good as I feel like they could be.
Yeah, could be better. Dwemer Tom says Skyrim for him, and Ted says Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2.
Fantastic choices.
Derek's follow-up question, kind of part and parcel of the same one, is also, what is your all-time favourite, but what is your all-time worst console?
Are we restricting this to consoles we've owned?
I think so. I think it's hard to say something's the worst when we've never had first-hand experience of it.
This is harsh, but it's Luna.
Yeah. Or do you count that over Stadia, even though it's dead?
I played a lot more games on Stadia than I did in Luna. Luna is still active and I barely touch it. I have barely touched it since it came out in the UK. There's never been games there that I wanted to play. At least with Stadia. I mean, it's circumstantial because of the podcast. I was more inclined to play games on Stadia. Mm-hmm. But anytime anything happens with Luna, I look at it and go, oh, that's a game that came out 10 years ago that I wasn't really interested in. I don't know. It's just I've never clicked. No. And anytime there's a couple of times when we have played Luna stuff on the channel, and I've had technical issues.
Yeah.
Where I never, through pretty much the entire time of covering Stadia, barely a hiccup. When it came to cloud gaming with Luna, I've had it. So it's not that I dislike Luna. It's just, it's never permeated into my thoughts too much in when it comes to my choice as a gaming platform, where Stadia did.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think actually, now you've said it out loud, I'd probably agree with you that realistically. And
I owned a 3DO.
Yeah, but you played loads more on that. Yeah, I'm thinking like, I mean, technically it's not a console, but in terms of the same things it brings with it, it's a console in the cloud for all intents and purposes. Yeah. And I bought my controller. I like the look of the controller. And I've probably played less than 10 hours in over 2 years, all things said and done. And it ain't down to me. Right?
Yeah, it comes down to what content's on the platform, really.
Yeah. So, shame. Brendan says, I had a PSP, but I could never get into it. I played a couple of games, but I was always into my DS more. Yeah, Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm
Probably
surprised
same
that'd
thing
be
with us and Louis.
worse, but yeah. Worst controller, Richie.
Do I sell my true love down the river for N64? Because as much as during our ranking, I put forward its case for it's not as bad as people think. Because the ergonomics are pretty bad. That joystick is terrible by modern standards. But it was so important. It's an important controller that isn't as bad as people make out. But I'm trying to think of a controller that was worse, excluding like third-party knockoff cheap £10 bargain bin.
Your Mad Catz controller.
Yeah, it might be N64. I'm not sure what I would rate worse, to be honest. Even things like the 3DO controller, it was just like a Sega Mega Drive controller. And yes, I know I had a stupid daisy chain for multiple players. But it worked for that platform.
I can't think.
You could argue to switch Joy-Cons, but I don't. The motion controls. But I have occasionally used my Joy-Con grip. You know, the weird thing, and it's fine for some stuff.
As a controller, my choice is the Wii. Because fuck me trying to play an actual game with that thing turned sideways.
Yeah, I see what
Oh my word. Like you just play something simple like Mario.
Yeah.
It just I know the motion sense and upright with the nunchuck was great. But playing some simple games with that thing turned sideways was just painful for my hands. My adult hands couldn't cope. It wasn't a controller ergonomically at all. It was a stick. No. It was a stick you waved around.
It was designed for motion controls. Yeah. And then they found a way to use it for other stuff.
Yeah.
But you could buy an actual controller for it.
That's true. That was a horrible controller as well, visually.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it was. I mean, I guess. No, I'm going with Wii. Because again, it's the controller. Even though you could buy another one, that's not the one I'm angry at. I'm angry at the Wii controller, which I know it serves purpose, but that's mine. Brendan, NES ones are just rectangles. You're not wrong. Sign of the times, though.
Yeah, Sign of the Times. I also did on an NES. So
yeah, I don't have any really first-hand experience other than the mini that I've got.
There's a reason I bought an N64 controller for my Switch and not an NES one. There was no purpose. The Joy-Cons or my actual Pro controller would do the role of the NES controller.
Yeah.
For N64, you need an N64 controller.
Absolutely. Ted says, I haven't had the opportunity to watch the console tier list yet, but where was the Dreamcast rated? Well, Ted, you'll have to tune in to check it out. He says, because I didn't like that one. It's a phenomenal episode, really. It's some of the best conversation we've ever had. The audience got really involved. It was really fun talking through ones we knew, we didn't know, ones we'd had, we didn't have.
It was 2 hours.
And we ran over so much, went over by like an hour and 15 than intended, because it was just it was working. But go check it out, Ted. It's brilliant. That Wii controller did find its way into some people's TVs as well, because you weren't wearing the wrist strap.
They always told you to put the wrist strap on, so if that went in your TV, that's on you.
Another negative against it. Why am I after wearing a wrist strap to play a game?
Because it's motion controls.
Yeah, I get it. Right, let's see. Worst game.
That's hard one.
Worst game.
The problem with worst game is I've probably forgotten about it.
Worst game. Yeah. Worst game.
There's probably some crap.
I think from my experience, the worst game I think I probably own is Bubsy 3D.
Okay.
It's a terrible platformer. It graphically didn't look great. The puzzles were terrible. The only reason it has a soft spot for me is it was the last birthday present my grandma ever bought me before she passed away. So it's got like...
So you don't have
I would have chucked it out decades ago if it didn't have that kind of like Never really understood gaming because she was an old lady. But it was like, oh, what would you like for your birthday? I didn't even ask for it. I just randomly got Bubsy purchased as a gift. And it was the last one. So like I'll keep that forever just because of that sentimental value. But it's a shit game. Sorry, Grandma. It's a shit game.
It's notoriously one of the worst games of all time. So that's an easy... You get that's a get out of jail free card for you.
It is.
Compared to what mine's going to be. I don't know whether this is the worst game I've ever played. It probably isn't, but it's the worst game I played in recent times, and it's one that came to mind. Mass Effect.
Ooh, I mean that's gonna.
Now, yes, this is controversial, but the reason I'm saying that is all the way through that game, it was a broken mess for sound for me.
The Legendary Collection specifically.
The Legendary Collection, yeah, the remasters. So there's no excuse. It should have been better than the originals. That's literally the point of a remaster. The sound was a broken mess to the point where pretty much any atmosphere that game had was dead. It just felt very, very flat for me. And then in one of the last missions, my save corrupted. The game crashed and my save corrupted. So I didn't get to finish the game. And that's why it is that. Because the game broke. And because it's a remaster, it really, really... Mass Effect was a franchise for a long time. People told me, you play it, you love it, you play it, you love it. When the remasters came, I was like, right, here we go. Finally, my time to play it. And it killed any interest in the franchise for me. To the point I never went back and played 2 or 3. It's downstairs and I just look at it occasionally.
Can't bring yourself to do it.
It just soured the experience of what should have been an amazing game.
Yeah, that is a shame. I enjoyed all 3 of them. Platinumed all 3 of them. And like you, I never played them before, but that is a shame. There's got to be worse games, like actual game, but
a game you can't complete is pretty bad.
That is true. I think there's got to be some bad ones on Stadia that we played as well. I'm sure chat will let us know if there's anything else. But thank you for writing in with that one, Derek.
Yeah.
A vast array of questions there. Simon writes in and says, what would your perfect game be? Theme, gameplay, cast? For me, it's yeah. I mean, just to keep it short and succinct, because I do want to get through these at some point, all the questions. Just more Uncharted, more character, adventure, action set pieces with just fun gameplay. Like, if you talk, like, any developer who comes out with a game similar to Uncharted, I will play and thoroughly enjoy it. It bugs me so much that Xbox has never like made that effort yet. The Tomb Raider trilogy reboot, phenomenal games. Loved all 3 of them thoroughly, enjoyed them every moment of them. Uncharted trilogy, thoroughly enjoy it. And then they get Indiana Jones, it's like, fuck yes. And I haven't played it yet. I still have my reservations about this whole first person thing. Like, if it was just third person, I know it's going to be probably one of my game of the years, if not my game of the year. But that first person, not seeing the character takes me out of the adventure personally, and I think it still is going to. I'm probably going to enjoy it, but I have my reservations, and I'm like, damn it, Xbox, couldn't you have just literally 1-for-1 made an Uncharted game with Indiana Jones skin, and it would have been up there. But that's what it is for me. Adventure.
I think I'm in a similar vein. I would go for a Zelda game, but I've recently replayed every single Uncharted game apart from Golden Abyss, and I already had the platinum in 2, but I got the platinum in all the rest, 1, 3, and 4. I had the platinum in Lost Legacy as well, but I played all of them, and I really was enjoying that kind of quite linear, narrative-driven story.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things I used to love about Zelda. As much as people love Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, one of the things I didn't like was how open the games were and how much there is story there, and Tears of the Kingdom did it better. But it's not an afterthought, but it's how the story's presented. It's more about exploring the world to discover the story. There's something nice about playing just a fucking video game. You play, like we've been playing through Gears of War, that linear nature of the game. It can be a fairly open world. Ocarina of Time is basically almost an open world.
Yeah.
That has a linear story told through it. I kind of would love for the next mainline Zelda game to be somewhere between Breath of the Wild and Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
So it has an open world, but has a linear story taken through that takes you on this adventure throughout the land of Hyrule.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. I'm hoping everything the games industry has learned from this year has shown that we're going to get back to that. If you think of like how Zelda's being praised now, how Space Marine 2 has been played for like respecting players' time, where it's like a short linear story, it's maybe 10 to 12 hours, and it's succinct. Astrobot, it's just a platformer with really short, fun levels that last no longer than 5 minutes.
The gaming industry needs to get out of the idea that they need to constantly tell shareholders about hours of game played, because this is the Ubisoft problem. They focus on putting so much content into the games that the content falls bland and uninteresting.
Yeah,
because they're trying to. It feels like sometimes when you're playing, like Valhalla is a perfect example. They did not stop bringing that game fucking out with DLC. So it's like the base game is 100 hours to do every piece of content in it before you start touching DLC.
Yeah,
it's like the game. It's too big for its own good, but the content isn't. In Final Fantasy VII Rebirth had the same problem. It was too open. It was too big, and as much as I loved it, when I got to the roll credits and looked at how much content I still had to play to go for the platinum, it would have been a full replay plus a ton of open world stuff. I was like, I don't have another 50 hours in me of this game. So I burnt out on it before I finished the game. I think the best games leave you at a point where you feel content when you've finished, but the part of you is still looking for a little bit more.
Yep.
Not going, oh god, there's tons of content here I can't be arsed with.
Yeah, and I hope we almost see like a renaissance off the back of like the successes and the failures this year will hopefully shape the landscape for the next half a decade to come.
It's quality over quantity.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of quality, next question from Big Lawrence writes in and says, what if trophies didn't exist? Would you quit playing games after finish them? Would it be an easy mode player, or would you just abandon games? I really admire players going for the platinum and all the effort it takes.
Depends
well,
game,
Big
really.
Lawrence, 144 platinums right here, baby.
I don't know off the top of my head.
But I think if trophies didn't exist, I don't even know what point I got suckered into. I think it is just the OCD nature of like collectathons where I have to have them all. So I think if games leaned into some kind of metric system of showing you that you were getting it, I probably would on some games and not on others. But I do think I would definitely have less of a completionist approach where I probably would finish the story or finish all of the missions and I just put it down and move on. And in some games I have like came to the understanding that I'm not going to do that. Like Space Marine 2, I don't intend to go for the platinum for that because I know I'll enjoy the story, but the trophies sometimes can like, I look at them now and just going, if you want a brutal mode completed or I have to play through the campaign 4 times over, I think like time is too precious to bother with that now. So I'm a lot more selective over which games I bother going for the platinum. But I always think if I appreciate, if I'm enjoying it and I have the time in my life, it's almost like my full seal of approval that I thoroughly enjoyed your game to the point where I want to know everything about it. And it's almost like my fully seal of approval. But if it's too difficult, like, nah. The trophy list needs to be fun, and I think that's partially why I love PlayStation First Party, because they've got such a good cadence over the last generation of just playing through the main story or the campaign or the missions, is you're almost like 80% there, and they never really ask too much of you to get it. It's almost like it complements the game by going back and learning a bit more or finding out a bit more of the city or the side mission or a character, and some are just little quirky ones, but yeah, I enjoy them for the most part, but I think we're both quite good now at like letting it go when we need to. Like, let it go, Anakin.
I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn was my first platinum trophy, so I'm quite late to the game.
There's a remaster coming out though.
Yeah. How many trophies did you say you have?
Platinums.
Yeah.
144.
I have 151.
No, you don't.
Gold. I have 34 platinum. For me, it's a game-by-game basis. It really is. If there's a game I really love and I don't usually look at the trophy list till I've probably about maybe 30, 40 hours into a game. Differs from game to game, and then I might start doing a few incidental trophies and go, I look at trophy list. Oh, that's easy. I'll go get that done. But I naturally do try to explore every nook and cranny of a game I get invested in.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how I typically play games. It's why it takes me a long time to get through games. So usually when I do roll credits in the game, I'm probably quite close to the platinum. Yeah. And if it's only a handful of combat trophies, a few exploration, a few collectibles, and I've really enjoyed the game, I'll go for it. But as I said, with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, as much as I loved the game, really loved playing through it. Mm-hmm. When I rolled credits, I looked at what I needed to do to get that platinum, and it was a full other playthrough, which was going to take me at least probably about 30, 40 hours, even skipping cutscenes. On hard mode, my girlfriend sold the game. She traded it in.
It took too long, damn it.
It was like, well, because I borrowed the game off her after she bought it, I borrowed it, and then she's like, she watched me play the full game. So she was like, I'm not going to go back and play it anytime soon, so I'm going to trade it in, get as much money as I can for it, and get it cheaper later.
Oh, trade-ins. Oh,
yeah, so that was just... So that game, as much as I loved it, didn't want to go for it.
That'll do it. How many gold did you say you had?
151? 731.
Can you actually see that on there?
Yeah.
144 platinums, 731 gold, 1,742 silver, and 6,516 bronze. Give me a total trophy list of 9,133. And to add a little bit more to that, I did have another profile that I had on the PlayStation 3 era that I shared with my brother. And then because of the age restrictions on, I think, 16 to 18-year-olds or something, we had a sub account and it messed everything up when we tried to go our separate ways with our trophy lists. So I just made a brand new one. So I've probably got a few more. But I only really got into platinum starting with Uncharted. I think I played Uncharted 1, 2, 3 almost back to back to back. Thoroughly enjoyed them. Got the platinums on PS3, then got the platinums on PS4. And then... yeah, that kind of kickstarted my collective. And it's interesting that the game that got me into trophies was a treasure hunting story game, which is like the ultimate irony of like, yes, it's you lived it in the game and then you did it virtually. And
Uncharted's not the easiest of platinums because you have to play on crushing difficulty.
Yeah, but the story was so good. Like I said, there's a reason it's my favorite game of all time. Is like I don't care about going back to it because, it's just so good.
As a side note, while we're talking about trophies, PlayStation, Sony, if you're listening. There's one thing you need to sort about your trophies. Across all different gaming platforms, I think Sony's trophies are the best integrated. Yeah. I like the Platinum trophy. There's one extra trophy for completing all the others. It's a nice little bonus. But when I have the Platinum trophy,
I know where you're going.
Don't leave me on 47%.
Yeah.
Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I have the Platinum trophy, 47% because of fucking DLC.
Yeah. Keep DLC separate. Come on. What are you doing?
Have it at 100% and with DLC go above 100%.
Yeah.
The base game should be 100%. So a Platinum trophy should always be 100%.
Yeah.
It annoys me.
100% agree with that, funnily enough. Or maybe 100% agree until I add 20%.
You're 47% agree with us because you're
because of the trophy list. Right, next question comes from Al Davis Music. Do you feel like cloud gaming has stagnated after the closure of Google Stadia?
Yes.
Yeah. There's undoubtedly it has. I think Xbox don't need to really try any harder. Nintendo are doing Nintendo things, but ultimately Luna aren't pushing it forward at all. GeForce Now have took the crown of performance, and it's became, unfortunately, what I think a lot of us feared, which was it's just a supplement to other platforms. It's just if you have Xbox or PlayStation, it's just like you get this as a pack.
The thing is, I think there's long-term ambitions behind it. I think even Sony are probably more on board now because of Google Stadia and the way. Because PS Now had most
dog shit.
The nails were in the coffin for PS Now.
Yeah.
Before Google Stadia, and they very quickly pulled them fucking out. I think Xbox Cloud Gaming came to market earlier than they probably wanted it to. I think that Xbox Cloud Gaming might have been a launch with this generation, not in the last generation. But as you said, the impetus has gone. Google tried and failed. Luna's stagnated. So Nvidia's doing very well, but is very much in the PC game space and not really hitting home in the console space that much. So Nintendo doing their own thing. Microsoft are continuing to work on it quietly. Sony continue to work on it quietly. There's nothing pushing them.
No.
It's a slow the development of these are slowed down. It's not abandoned, but it's not that's what Google Stadia did. Google came out all guns blazing and rocked the industry a bit. So it changed the plans, and then when they failed, they've fallen back into what they were doing already.
Yeah, it's just shame.
There's things I wish they would push a bit harder. Like Sony, I love my Portal, but give me the full cloud gaming experience, not just remote play. Xbox, give me a Portal comparison console. Let me play my entire Xbox library through the cloud, stuff you've promised to do. These are things these are checkpoints that need to get over the line.
Yeah,
I think it's slowed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only last big tech player really to come in is probably Apple, but I don't think they've got any interest really
Apple,
now. After seeing Google and Amazon fail at it.
I've always said with Apple, my issue with Apple going into the gaming space is Apple like to have everyone to do things on their terms.
Yeah.
That's not how the gaming industry works.
That ain't how it works, yeah. You're completely right. So yes, Al, I think it does. And the last question from Doc Holliday writes in, interested in your personal favourite gaming memories. For example, my favourite gaming memory is sitting around a 14-inch TV with my mates playing Mario Kart, GoldenEye and WWF No Mercy. Favourite gaming memory?
I've got two, which kind of links into my favourite games of all time.
Okay.
One of them is rolling credits on Ocarina of Time for the first time, because I think that's the first game that I connected with on such an emotional level.
Yeah.
You know, when the story gets you emotionally and you roll credits and go, oh, shit, done.
Yeah.
That's the first game I really remember clicking like that with.
Right.
The other one is Pokemon. I mentioned earlier in one of our streams today. My auntie used to have a caravan in the south of France. We used to drive there from the north of England. It's basically a 24-hour drive. I used to play Pokemon on my Game Boy for pretty much the entire journey. And it's just a memory that's always stuck. I had the fucking magnifying glass and the light, headphones in, and I used to just play Pokemon because it passed the time. And that's where my love of Pokemon I think that's where my love of Pokemon comes from.
Yeah. Those long car rides in the summer.
Yeah.
Catch them out. I like that one. Mine, I think I've got like kind of two. I think proudest probably gamer memory, I think, is when we collectively as a channel raised over £1,000 for charity.
We did.
Through like our amazing community. Very generous developers and publishers out there who donated money towards us. Shout out to the team at what they're called? That's terrible. The guys who did Killer Queen. Liquid Bit. I was thinking Liquid something, but then I was like Liquid Black, Liquid Thingy. Yeah, Liquid Bit Games. They were hugely helpful. So were the guys. Coat Sync.
Rest in peace, Killer Queen Black.
Coat Sync as well. Well, the game's still a thing. It's not dead.
Another service shut.
Killer Queen Black.
I'm sure the service shut.
No, surely not. The game should be popular as all hell on Steam.
I'm pretty sure the service shut, you know.
I don't think they did. But yeah, I think raising that much money for charity within a great community is like, it's the most money I've probably ever raised. So yeah, shout to that one. In terms of personal memories, it's interesting when you say that. It's like, wow, what do I go back to? And I'm like, I remember great times playing with my brother, like Crash Bandicoot, like just playing like alongside each other, taking turns every time we died. I remember staying up till 4 a.m. playing Star Wars Battlefront with friends and just like taking like turns on Geonosis and stuff. I remember staying up till 4 a.m. another time playing Star Wars Unleashed, watching our friend Matty try and pull the Star Destroyer out of the sky, but for some reason the way the sticks worked, he couldn't do it. Like it was like pull down the joysticks and it would get so close and then just die and fail. But then yeah, I'm thinking like memories. I think, God, what is it? I remember playing Columns with like my mum and dad. Like all of us sat around the Sega Mega Drive playing. It's essentially Tetris Columns, with everyone, like all sat around just taking turns on it. So it's interesting one to kind of pin the exact gaming moment, I guess. Yeah, it's a tough one. I remember coming in from school and seeing my mum playing on Roller Coaster Tycoon and being like, what the hell? And she was doing all like the finance stuff, like taking loans and paying them off. And I was like, I don't even know this was a thing in the game. And she taught me like the benefits of finances and how interest rates work through it all. But yeah, for an exact particular moment, I'd probably have to really, really think about it.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. You know what? I also Warcraft 3 when it came out on the PC. I fucking love that game. The story's still an amazing video game story to this day. When I got into World of Warcraft and actually took down the Lich King with my guild, that was a fucking moment. Because I almost had that closure. Because I've been playing World of Warcraft for years, but to actually go through from playing Warcraft 3 where Arthas is introduced to the story of becoming the Lich King and then starting World of Warcraft and then taking him down.
Yeah.
That was a moment as well.
What a moment. Video games. Yeah. Video games, man. There's so many memories. Like I'm thinking, like I remember playing on Command and Conquer with my brother, and the PC used to be in our conservatory, so when the sun would come through the transparent ceiling, you couldn't really see the screen, so we used to take the couch cushions, put one each side of me and him on a chair, and one on top of our heads rested above us, so we made like a little fort around the PC screen, just so we could see it. So sat playing Command and Conquer, Railroad Tycoon, Roller Coaster Tycoon, where we just sit side by side as like 10 8-year-olds and just play games on a Sunday morning while our parents just cracked on with adult stuff. And yeah, I'm very interested to see like how my daughter grows. I think my best gaming memories are inevitably going to be with my daughter as she gets older. So like they're still yet to come for me, I think. But yeah, it's always times with family or great moments.
I've had a few because I've got a few nephews who are a bit older than your daughter. For my nephew's 6th birthday, I bought him Lego Hogwarts on the Switch. Nice. And my sister-in-law sent me a photo of him playing. It's like,
nice.
Like, because my brother's been reading him the books as like a bedtime story, and every time he finishes his book, he watches the movie.
I like it.
And me and my girlfriend, we were looking for a birthday present. We went to Smith's, and we're looking at the games, and it's like I saw it, like that's the, you know, when it's like that's the one.
Yeah, that'll fit. That'll tick every box.
Yeah, it's what he's getting into right now. It's a game he loves. His Switch. Last Christmas, I was playing Pokemon Legends Arceus with him, and playing Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening on the Switch with him as well. It was like he's getting. You could see him getting there. It's like you're currently sat there watching him playing like Link's Awakening, one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah,
because that's another one of the games on those trips to south of France I play the hell out of. Seeing him playing the modern version of it, like, and enjoying it is like, well done, son. I appreciate this. This is a good, yeah.
One day you will inherit my broken N64 to buy Google Stadia controller, and you can enjoy it all the same. Finally, from Ted says, my mum's friend's son came from Japan to visit a few years ago. There's a language barrier, but we all connected through gaming. One of my best memories. Also playing Super Contra more than a decade ago. Yeah, I think that's the great thing is with video games is like you don't need language to connect. It's you can pick them up, you can figure them out with a couple of presses of the button, and you can enjoy it. And I think that's why things like Astrobot and Zelda and stuff have really resonated this year, because they are just ultimately video games. You go up, you go down, you go left, you go right, you hit a thing or you jump over a thing and shit happens, and it's fun, it's colourful, and it's whimsical, and everybody can enjoy that in their life. But
Video
Richie,
games brings people together.
it does. And we wouldn't have such a fantastic community if it wasn't for gaming and people like you out there who supported us over the last 5 years, half a decade. Again, I think we were all quite sad when Google Stadia died, and we thought, is this the end? And we kept going. And here we are, Richie, at a 5-year milestone. Will we be here for a 10-year milestone? Who knows? Will we be back next year for our 6th anniversary? Most likely. But thank you to everyone who's tuned in for our 5-year anniversary live stream with myself and Richie streaming all day. We've been going for 13 hours, give or take a couple of breaks. We've done plenty of great things. We've played games. We've talked about games. We've ranked game consoles. And we've answered your questions. So thank you very much to everyone who wrote in with a question. We do appreciate you all. You'll all be in the draw for free GamerGuild merch. We're giving away a t-shirt, a mug, some stickers, and maybe a couple of other things along the way. Thank you to all the wonderful super chats that came in throughout the day as well. It's wholeheartedly appreciated. Thank you. Shout out to our guild heroes. You support us that extra bit further than the average Joe does, and we couldn't do it all without you. But Richie, I think 1 o'clock in the morning is probably the right time to start wrapping this up. We need to get out of these chairs. I need to go lie down and crack this back a little bit. Thanks to the people who stayed up with us till the early hours of the morning, whether it's early here or not. We hope you've enjoyed the stream. If you would like us to do more things like this, I think we're more than happy to if we can find the time, whether it's members only or it's with you wonderful folks out there. Do let us know. But for the last time, for 5 years, Richie, our anniversary technically isn't actually until Monday, I think.
I don't know.
The
it might be now, you know.
The 30th is the official date, so it'll be tomorrow. But that's been it for this special episode of the GamerGuild Podcast Q&A with our community questions and answers. My name's been Chris.
And I've been Richie.
We've been GamerGuild TV, everyone. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, play wherever makes you the happiest. Goodbye.
Bye.